All right, we are live here with Kyle Roof, one of the nation's foremost experts on-page SEO. I'm looking forward to diving in. Kyle, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. I'm the co-founder and lead SEO for High Voltage SEO, which is our agency. I'm the co-creator of Page Optimizer Pro, which is an on-page SEO tool. I'm also the co-founder of Internet Marketing Gold, which is our little community dedicated to doing SEO tests and find out what's really working and what's not.
Nice. And so you have the agency and you have the software. Which one of those came first?
The agency.
The agency.
The software came out of the agency and something that we figured out, kind of some math that we were doing, and then we were doing it by hand. I was like, well, this sucks. And actually, our CTO was like, well, I think I can learn Python.
Nice.
And put that into a Python script. And so it took her like 2 or 3 weeks, and she did. And then all of a sudden we started working with it, and we showed a couple people, and they're like, oh, I would love to have that. And 3 years later, now it's a full-fledged SaaS tool, and you can log in and use. It's been a crazy ride on that.
I'm curious to hear about both, actually. We're in somewhat of a similar position. We have the agency, which we actually just started running again, just really like right before COVID. But we've also got some software. My business partner, David Kravitz, is actually a Python SQL expert. And we basically built a piece of software that helps people connect to Google BigQuery for like enterprise, kind of like data management, stuff like that. And it's definitely interesting running both a service business and a software business because they're very different. Also a lot of similarities. So I'm curious to dig into your journey. So let's start by talking about the agency. So the agency, how many people do you guys have? What type of clients do you guys work with? Only SEO. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So we have an office in Phoenix, which is where I was located up until about 5 minutes ago. We have an office in Berlin. We have an office in Melbourne. Berlin is probably our main office. We have, give or take, I think we have 16, 17 employees right now.
Nice.
Most are either in the Berlin office or in Phoenix. I'd say about half actually kind of come into an office regularly, and the other half are dispersed across different places. So we do local to national to international. So as a result of being in the US, we have US clients. Being in Germany, we have European clients, and then we also have Australian clients. Most of our, although we do have some German clients, a lot of the clients we have in Europe are people entering the German market, which was interesting. And we didn't realize that that's what would happen, that we would set up kind of an English-speaking agency in Germany and then actually attract, say, a Swedish company that wants to move into Germany, but they speak English very well and are comfortable working with an English-speaking agency.
So did you open those separate locations to target clients or because of where the talent was located?
It was convenience to start. My business partner, Andrew Stephen, he's Australian, but he spends his time between Berlin and Melbourne. So we almost instantly opened an international company by accident.
Yeah.
But that gave us a lot of credibility because people do like to get someone who's local in a sense.
Sure.
And if you're going after national clients, they feel better working with, say, a U.S. company, and well, they can talk to me, or an Australian company can talk to Andy. And it makes people feel a lot better on who they're dealing with. But that was a pure accident that worked out really, really well. Nice.
And in regards to the type of clients you guys work with, are they, do you target a specific niche, or are they just kind of general SEO? How do you guys operate like that?
So we have it kind of across the board with local to national to international, some e-com. For us, we're at the point, we kind of made a shift in our agency where we're looking for companies that will sign a 6-month contract, that are established enough that they have already kind of committed that marketing budget and can then do that type of contract. And so that right there often weeds out a lot of people that we're not going to work with, because I think a lot of people don't know they're month to month. They don't know, they haven't budgeted out because their business is running month to month. And so for them to make a 6-month commitment is very difficult, understandably so, because they just don't know if the money's going to be there. So a lot of the clients that we're working with now have that money, or they've kind of put that aside. And it's actually been another lucky thing for us with COVID that we really haven't had client churn. We lost a few, but we've gained as many, mainly because the clients that we're working with are COVID proof in the sense of, at least, they can't go forever, but sure, they've already budgeted that money. They have that money available. So they're not looking to cut marketing as an immediate, how are we going to survive type tactic.
Sure. So how have you guys been handling COVID so far? I mean, aside for us, it's been a very similar experience. we've been super fortunate that we haven't churned off any clients that wouldn't have gone naturally without COVID anyways, just end of the campaign, um,
Exactly.
that type of just kind of natural churn. But leads have definitely dried up. I mean, we're starting to come a little bit more out of it now. How has your experience been with COVID in terms of signing new clients? Have you guys been impacted? Have you changed any strategies to target new clients? How have you guys continued to push on during this period?
We we did two things. Well, the big thing that's helped us is actually the type of client that we've been going after recently. Really, that was just very fortunate that we made that decision just as a business decision, and it's played very well for the situation.
The six
We did,
contract, the 6 month change.
yeah,
Okay.
the target. Now, obviously, those aren't the easiest clients to get. That's a longer lead time, much longer lead time, many more touch points, a lot more meetings, a lot more investment to get those types of clients. So there's a big trade-off. You can't just flip the switch one day and decide I'm doing all 6 month contract clients because they're much harder to get. And the $1,000 a month kind of client is, or $500 or whatever you're doing, the local whatever, that's a lot easier to get. But also there's a lot more turnover with those just naturally.
Definitely.
We went a little lean on our software. We made some tougher choices on do we need all of these subscriptions? And we ended up saving somewhere in the neighborhood of I don't know, after like all the cuts were done, 4,000 to 5,000 a month. We were able to trim.
Wow.
And that gives you some breathing room because then we did lose some initial clients. Like we have a client that their product simply can't be made anymore. They're like, we were doing great and things were going fine and they were happy and loving it and didn't see them leaving, except that they can't get their hands on any product, which means they can't sell anything, which means their business is permanently, or at least now, done. So we lost those types of clients. We're like, oh, we're really sorry. We just can't do anything. A couple got smacked, similar situations, but the rest of our clients are not in those types of situations. The other thing we did was really investing in making sure that our value was known by our clients, which is something we always talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good opportunity for us to look at our processes. Maybe we can get a little leaner in our processes, which we did. Do we need these steps for these things, and we can remove these steps or reassign them to maybe somebody that's kind of a lower salaried person or lower hourly person.
Sure.
But then also, are we making sure that our value prop is aligned with our clients, which we made a real push and we have been. But I think in the last 3 months, at the end of this month, I don't think we've had any churn.
Nice. Yeah. It's funny is that, I think the assumption was when COVID happened that this was going to be temporary, like a 2 to 3 month thing. But I think we're seeing now, I mean, I'm in Miami where it's just not going to go away here. Like you can't tell people in Miami to stop going. It's just not going to happen. In my opinion, it's just going to be something, unfortunately, that we're going to be living with this for a while. So I do think now that businesses are starting to come around, just being like, okay, this is probably not going to be a short-term temporary thing like we thought it was. We have to figure out how to adapt going forward. And I think a lot of companies now are just looking to run leaner. Same thing with us too. I mean, like when we look at our SEO process, we literally just boil it down to we're not going to do any of the kind of fluff things anymore that, maybe like a competitive analysis just to satisfy the questions of the client because they want to know, right? But it might not actually impact the campaign. So we stripped away all that stuff and just tried to very cliche, but 80-20 our service. Like what are the things that clients are going to want to pay for us for? What are the deliverables? And most importantly, what are the things that we can do that are going to drive the most impact? And what we've really found is we've stripped down a lot of the long technical SEO checklists. Like if the website's running on WordPress, like we don't need to spend 40 hours doing a tech audit, right? So we've kind of stripped that down and focused more on some internal audits that we built, but then heavy on keyword research, heavy on page, heavy content, and of course, link building as well. On page is what you're really known for. And whenever people in our group, talk about on page, a lot of people refer to you, and it's definitely somewhere that we've been looking to kind of bolster. So what is it about your on page practice and approach that you think differentiates you and people come to you as the on page expert?
Well, I think I take a systematic approach. I also take a math approach, and that it really on page comes down to counting. That's not fun. That's not sexy. But the bottom line comes down to how many times you're putting your keywords, your variation, and your contextual terms, your LSI, in very specific places on the page. And it's keeping an eye on those things and then tweaking them accordingly is really the foundation of good on page. If in my talks, I've got the line that says Google's algorithm is an algorithm. What that means is that you can beat it with math. Google can't read. An algorithm is incapable of reading it. It has to read it in a mathematical way. So if you satisfy the math, you will succeed the majority of the time with that algorithm. And that doesn't mean you have to write bad copy.
Mm-hmm.
Far from it. What you should do is write your copy how you want to write it, answer the question you need to answer, give the information, and then come back in and edit and make sure that you have written good copy, because really good copy satisfies most SEO. It's copy that's garbage. I mean, not every writer is created equal. And I think everyone thinks that their copy is good, but it's not necessarily. But good copy usually hits the math pretty well, and then it's small edits from there. But just that's really what it comes down to, is kind of knowing those places, testing them to make sure they're good, but then doing the counting, doing the numbers.
So then I'm sure then your on-page process really has to start with keyword research then, right? I mean, what is it that you're doing during the keyword process then, I guess, keyword research process to start to understand that math? Are you looking at like main keywords, secondary keywords, semantics? Like how do you kind of like classify and tag and organize your keywords?
Sure. I think an important thing to understand is that there are really two types of keywords in the sense that there's a primary keyword and a secondary keyword. If you properly optimize for a primary keyword, you will win its secondaries, often even if those secondaries aren't even on the page. When you go into Search Console and you look at your page performance, you'll see pages are ranking for hundreds or thousands of keywords, none of which you've targeted. But that's because they're probably associated with that primary keyword. So what we do, often in the keyword research, people will look at just one keyword and say like, okay, this keyword has this much volume and this much difficulty, but they neglect to actually do any research on finding the secondary keywords for that particular primary. So the idea is that when we do our keyword research, we look at, okay, this is the primary, it has this search volume and this kind of competition, but also these are our secondaries that we think we're going to win. This means that our pool, our total impression pool that we can win is actually this big, and it makes it a much more attractive thing. So if you're only looking, and most SEOs do, they just look at one keyword and say keyword, volume, difficulty. Okay, I like this one. What if the secondaries actually go into left field? Because that happens from time to time. You optimize for a keyword and Google starts associating all this stuff that has nothing to do with your product or service or whatever you're trying to accomplish. So you worked all that time, you won your primary, that's great, but all those secondaries, you're getting all this traffic that's never going to convert.
Right.
Because you never took the time to look at it.
Right.
Conversely, you might have a keyword you're never going to win. You might have one that is just pie in the sky, but if you optimize for that and then you get secondaries on in good places, that page is wildly successful because it's gathering all the traffic from those secondaries that were winnable. The main one wasn't. So people often run away from a very difficult keyword. Then if they took the time to properly optimize, then they could actually get a very successful page about that topic.
It's actually very encouraging. We use the exact same terminology, primary and secondary keywords, as you do. So it's always just interesting too, because at the end of the day, there's really no right answer to this, right? It's whatever works for you and whatever process you can build around it to do it repeatably and scalably. But when it comes to like kind of reining in these secondary keywords, I guess, are you using any, like what software are you using, and are you just kind of following best keyword practices, just using common sense? Like how do you kind of main keyword is easy, right? I mean, whatever the biggest keyword you want to target that's most relevant to that product, brand, whatever. But then how are you determining and refining those secondary keywords to make sure that they're not going off into left field?
By and large, the easiest way to look at it is Google gives it to you. When you do the search and you scroll to the bottom, you look at the related searches, those right there are all usually very related to that primary keyword. Check them out and then click on them and see what they go to. So do one more click. Once you see that next set, if those are off, then that's not maybe the direction you want to go, but those should be pretty much on target as well. And what you realize when you go back and look at pages that are ranking for a lot of keywords, you'll see those secondaries, and then their secondaries are often what you're ranking for, getting a lot of impressions kind of within that zone. So that's what you want to look for, I think, is the first big indicator, are the related searches that show up. That's the clearest indicator that you can find.
Definitely. Yeah, we do a lot of, man, it's so crazy. We do a lot of that as well. The other thing that we'll use too is just we'll take the top URLs and just dump them into SEMrush or Ahrefs and just see if there's anything else relevant that's picking up that we need to pay attention to. So you
Can I get a pointer real quick on that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Sometimes it is a little, I would say 75-80% of the time, it's easy to see the primary keyword. It's the one that has the most volume and makes the most sense. Like that's usually it's a no-brainer. But from time to time, you get a decision where is it this or that? And so what you can do is do the search in Google both ways and look at the meta titles for the sites that appear. If the sites are basically the same, maybe slightly out of order, Google's seeing that as the same keyword. Then what you want to do is you want to look at what is actually in the meta titles, go with the one that has the most. That Google seems to be favoring, then that's the one you want to target as your primary. That gives you the best chance to win. So when you're ever in those like split decisions, do the search both ways, compare the SERPs, make sure that they're relatively the same, and look at those meta titles and see which way basically Google is favoring.
Nice. Good tip. I like that. Okay. So you've got your keywords, primary, secondary, you got them organized as a spreadsheet, whatever template or tool that you're using. Now it comes part to optimize the content or landing pages. Are you writing the copy first just based on the keywords and then using your software afterwards? Or how does the on-page process fit into after you have the keywords discovered?
We'll do a run first just to kind of get a feel for what we're looking for, because I like to write content around elements, meaning how many H2 should we get on this page? How many images are people using? Are people using forms and tables? And then the idea is that if you get a feel for what type of page Google is rewarding, you can then start to write your content around those things. So then you tell your writer, hey, we want to get about 5 images on this page. We need about 7 sections. Here are some people also ask questions. Here are some related keywords we like. Use those for your H2s, and then write. Then we just tell them to write, and we also give them an approximate word count. We're looking for from here to here, and then they write really good content. But that person is not an SEO. That's a content writer. The next part of the process is the person that comes in to edit now has the nitty gritty. So we've taken what we've got and we run it through the process. Now we can see the numbers as they match up. And then we're going to start to say, okay, we need to edit this, this, and this here, and here, just to add these things, or maybe tweak this just a little bit in those places. It streamlines the process, but you end up writing better content. You get good content because a content writer wrote it with these parameters, and then an SEO comes in and edits just to make sure that then Google will also like it.
And that's all done in your software. So the content is written, and then I apologize, I haven't used your software before.
No worries.
So please feel free to plug it the whole time throughout here. So do you then copy and paste the content into your software? It highlights the keywords, keyword gaps, etc., stuff like that.
You can just use the URL, or if you're using a Google Doc, you can use a Google Doc.
Oh, perfect, nice. Yeah, I don't do the SEO anymore. I apologize. We've tested tools like ClearScope, in the past. But we've really found that really just kind of going through manually, we'll definitely have to check your software out, but going through manually is a very similar process to what you said, like putting together a very detailed outline, giving it to a writer, and then going back and reviewing it for the SEO stuff that we need. Yeah. Go ahead.
You do need to give some guidelines. Like it's not just like, hey, go write about this.
Yeah.
You do need to have it be, that's exactly what we do is we give a template. Hey, this is what we're looking for. It is somewhat detailed, but it's not we need you to hit all of these points. And that's not what we're looking for out of the writer from the start. It is just kind of get it within this range and then edit. Something that's really funny is that when you're talking about, I don't do SEO anymore. We're working with you can get your shameless plug.
Please.
You can get your recommendations directly in WordPress. So we're using our software, and so you can see them right there. But I was testing it, and I realized I have no idea how to make a WordPress page anymore. Like I was in Elementor or Oxygen or something, and I was like, this makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I know.
Where's the editor? Like I was truly lost, and I was like, I realized I don't think I've actually built a web page in 4 years. I say it all the time, like, oh, just go build a page, like it's nothing. And then I realized, like, oh wow, this is a lot.
I feel like such a grumpy. When Gutenberg came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like so frustrated.
Where do I put the title?
Like, yelling at the screen. It's funny. Yeah. We're rebuilding our agency website, and all my staff is just like completely backed up with work. So I'm doing a lot of it, like a lot of the copy and stuff myself. And I'm like, yo, this is not what I get paid to do anymore, man. This is, okay, cool. So kind of transitioning into your software a little bit. So how do you're doing the agency, you're doing the software. I know you also do a lot of speaking and training as well. We've kind of actually a very similar kind of, I think, portfolio in terms of what we do on a daily basis. How do you spread your time? Are you more focused on the agency? Do you have like people in place to help you out? Like how do you structure your time to make sure that everything is getting dealt with?
On the agency side, we put together a leadership team, and that leadership team does not include myself. Okay. And that's kind of like where the direction the company's going, or how to process things, or really the business decisions that can be made that don't necessarily need me involved, sure, or my business partner, Andy. And that's been a long process coming, but that's been very, very good. So then the leadership team, then they're accountable to the account manager, or the account manager accountable to them. And then it kind of goes down the line. So then as the campaigns go through, really, if there's an issue or there's like, hey, what should we do in this situation? We need to make an SEO judgment call. That's then where I can come in. And then also I will touch the clients from time to time. That's more few and far between. Mm-hmm. Most of my time is spent on Page Optimizer Pro, testing it out, new features, working it, that kind of thing. And then also working on presentations and courses and stuff like that.
If you don't have to give me numbers, but which one is I mean, I guess which one do you see kind of, do you spend more of your time on the software because you see more potential, more scale there?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of scale. That's the beauty of a software that starts to take off, is that the time put in and then the return is significantly higher than anything else. And what's nice too is that there's an endless supply of people. In a sense, there are only so many clients. I mean, there are a billion clients. You're never going to run out of clients, but the acquisition cost is a lot lower to get somebody in. And then if you can provide something that is worthwhile to them, that they can see the value, then they stay longer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always nice too to, agency sales can be a bit of a grind. I had a conversation yesterday with, I don't know if you know John Doherty. He owns a company called Credo. They basically like agency matching, kind of like staffing for agencies, what have you, in a sense. And we were talking a lot about the agency sales process and how a lot of companies will ghost. You'll like literally have multiple conversations, great conversations. They're excited. They request a proposal, you work on it, and then you just don't hear from them. It's like an exhausting process to get agency. In a sense, it's easier to kind of forecast and baseline agency sales because you know it's in your pipeline. You have a good feeling of what's going to close. But why I really love the training model and the software model is the fact that like the cash register rings overnight,
Yep.
And you just don't really know when it's going to happen. So there's definitely that element of that hockey stick type of growth that doesn't need your direct constant input. There's elements of sales that we have in both our software and our training platform. But yeah, it's very exciting to have kind of more of that passive income model that we all got into, on the software side. And again, just that element of scale too. There's really no cap.
Sure. I mean, the cost to onboard, if you will, one more person in your software is so significantly smaller than onboarding one person into anything else.
Yeah.
Even a course, it's less effort.
I mean, I spend actually, I would say probably 90% of my time on the blueprint because number one, I love working with people like yourself, like agency owners. We're all kind of on the same team when we're doing the training stuff, which is exciting. It's much more of a natural fit, I feel like, too, to do stuff like this. So I spend a lot of my time on the training, and same thing there though. I mean, like the margins on training there's just nothing like it. And also to the cap, it's a bit more of a push and a convincing process to get people. Our training is a little bit more expensive too. It's 3,000, raising to 4,000 tomorrow actually. But so it's a little bit more of a,
good for you.
Yeah. well, we actually added an element of software into ours. My partner bought software into it. So we're just kind of, instead of making people buy the software on top of it, we're just bulking it all together. Neither here nor there. But point being is that the margins and the same thing, that element of scale. And once you kind of get your marketing and advertising dialed in on that, it just grows so much faster. But at the same time, go ahead.
The only thing I'd say about a course, though, is that a lot of people have the idea of doing a course, and they might do a very successful course. But wanting to do a course and doing a course are two very separate concepts. Because when you do a course, you're writing a book. And I think everybody at some point in time has sat down to write that masterpiece, got about 4 pages in and decided that was the worst thing ever. And that's really what a course is. It is a grind to put out
beyond
all that content.
Very good point. Very good point. It's
not easy.
It's exhausting. So we update ours consistently too. Like we made it a point to make this more of kind of like, I like to call us like the business model we really want to go after is like digitalmarketer.com, like an evergreen training platform that's more of a brand that's just continuously flushing through top quality content, not like Blueprint version 4.0, where you consistently have to kind of like relaunch. A launch is just so exhausting and it's so much work.
A ton of work.
A ton of work. It's ridiculous. So, but at the same time, managing the updates, like we just updated our project management module. And I literally need to take 3 days off from not speaking to anybody after doing something like that, because it's so much of a mental and physical drain. I can't do anything afterwards. It's like building a course is exhausting.
Off camera, you can't see the mangled tripod that I just destroyed right before because I couldn't get it to stand right. Because I'm shooting videos over here. It
is exhausting. It takes like a Herculean effort, especially with everything else that you've got going on, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Try and sit down, plan it, and then film it. And then again too, I mean, you already know, I mean, like the thing that propels the course is the quality. So if you don't feel like it's the utmost quality, to go back and redo, like especially videos that are already done, it's like I can't. I just can't do this right now.
Oh no, that's you live with it. After a certain point, you're like, that video is just gonna have to be good enough right now.
Yeah, no, for sure.
on my course, I think I've got around 115 videos. And when I mapped it out and I was probably filming around video 50, I was about ready to kill myself.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what was I thinking?
It, it is
This is the
exhausting. But
worst.
then once you get it done and you're like, damn, this money is pretty good, man.
That part does feel pretty good.
It's the margin on it too. And again, too, like if you do build a good product, which I've heard great things about yours, by the way, it also helps propel you and your business to the next level too, because once people are using your system and they look to you for guidance and advice, you're leveling up your brand at the same time, right?
That's what I was going to mention about when you talked about there are things going on, but there's a lot of synergy between doing an agency, having a software, and then having a course.
Yeah.
There's so much synergy between those three things where then, if somebody, you almost think of like price point levels where somebody's like, hey, I want to learn how to do this on my own. Okay, well, that's the course. I would like you to do this for me as a partnership. That's the agency. I'm sorry, it starts with the software. I want to do this on my own. Then I want to learn it. Now I need you as a partner. You can see how you can transition through, those kind of things.
Yeah. We talk a lot, me and my partner, about vertical alignment, meaning what we're doing at the blueprint, what we're doing at the agency, and what we're doing with our software are all really running on the same backbone. The agency, we're literally at our agency, we do not do anything. The blueprint is every single deliverable that you need to run a very lean and effective SEO campaign. That is 100% of stuff. We do not do any custom work at our agency. We're literally running the same project plan over and over again, which is the exact same thing that's in the blueprint, which comes with, keyword research template, on-page template, keyword gap template, reporting to all that stuff. Sure. So then what we're doing is we're kind of looking at those templates as kind of like the do-it-yourself version. You can also pay us to do them for you at the agency. And then if you want to automate these, we're migrating all these templates to BigQuery. That's where the software comes into play.
Sure. Makes sense. And you can see how that naturally progresses.
Yeah, exactly. It took us a while to get there and kind of understand the flow of how it should go. So we're actually looking at the blueprint, even though it's a $4,000 price point, as we're basically getting people to pay us upfront. It's actually exactly, I don't know if you know what ClickFunnels did. What ClickFunnels did was they were the fastest software company to get to 100 million in the history of software. It was just pretty impressive if you think about it. And what they did is they used their training platform basically as a paid, they were breaking even on their customer acquisition because people were paying for like a $50 training product for how to build a funnel. And then they were like basically showing them how to build a funnel in ClickFunnels. So people were paying for the onboarding for the course and then upgrading to use the software. So, same thing with what I'm sure you guys could do or are doing too, with giving an on-page course, and then in the background, I'm sure you're using your software.
I would say the course is agnostic. I do teach.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so I show how you can use it, and obviously the theories are align, of course. But I did do the course with the idea of I want to teach you how to do on-page SEO, and you can use whatever you're comfortable with. Obviously, I have a superior product, and you'll do better at SEO. But what I told people is people have the tools they like, right?
Yeah,
they've got this stuff. And I didn't want to say the only way for this to work is to use this particular thing. But the synergy comes in, and I think it's a natural progression from that. Like if you like these concepts, I've got this thing that does it. Sure. Something that we've actually done recently with the tool we launched on Tuesday was a brand new dashboard. Something that I thought people wanted was to make decisions on their own. But I think with the name of your program, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Here's the blueprint. This is what you should do. Yeah. And so we have a new dashboard. Our legacy still exists. And if you want to do your individual stuff, you can do that. But we actually have a dashboard now that just tells you what to do.
Nice.
With your on page, it breaks it up into 3 different sections for your title, your subheadings, and your main body content, and tells you this is just what you need to do. And it's not even an 80-20 rule. I think 80-20 is selling a little bit short. It's extremely effective in the way that it is, and it's done in a way that I think you could pass this off to anybody that doesn't even understand SEO, and they could get it done and do a pretty good page.
And how does your pricing work at Page Optimizer?
So our cheapest plan is $20 a month. You get to unlimited at $39 a month. And then what we call our agency plan, which gives you sub accounts. So you can give that to your VAs, for example, and they can log in and work on very specific projects and assign projects. That's $78. That also gives you access to Google's NLP API, as well as we have a proprietary EAT score. Not a score, but an evaluation. So if you're concerned about MEDIC, you can see what your competitors are doing on their page that are MEDIC type touch points and what you have. We went through the Google Quality Rater guidelines and found the things that a bot could find.
Nice.
Within those, and then we've put them into the tool.
That's actually very, very affordable.
And
70.
we're the most affordable on the market.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think ClearScope was upwards of like 300 a month or something.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Very
Market Muse is
low.
350 to 500, I think. Cognitive SEOs raised their prices. Yeah, everybody is more than us.
So, and I mean, so just from my experience, our software is pretty expensive. Again, we're mainly target. It's not too bad. Basically, what we're doing is we're giving away. We're very similar to what a like agency analytics could do, except agency analytics is more specifically for reporting, right? Basically, what we're doing is we're building what we call a recipe. So like a quality, a website quality audit is one of our like flagship ones. We just built one called an organic pulse report. Basically, we're giving you the done. So as opposed to going to agency analytics and dragging and dropping and building all this stuff yourself and like having to figure it out, we're basically giving you the completed, we're calling it a recipe, and you're paying us per run, per monthly report for that.
Sure.
Giving you credits, what have you. And it's
the idea is that it matches with what is in the blueprint. The idea is that you kind of put your credit in, blueprint comes out.
A little bit, not quite. So basically, think about it this way: if you wanted to run, like we're building one right now, we're building a keyword research report, but we're also building one recipe. Sorry, that is basically taking your AdWords API and Search Console API, and building what we call like a blended universal search report. So you can see how your paid is affecting organic and vice versa, and you can taper down, etc. So we're covering the cost for the APIs and that. Like traditionally, you need like Supermetrics. Like if you wanted to build this on your own, you can definitely do it. You can write some Python, some SQL. It's just a pain in the ass. Nobody wants to do it.
Supermetrics on its own is $300 a month.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's why. So we actually built a Google Sheets add-on for our Blueprint members that you don't have to use Supermetrics anymore, because all of our software, our tools internally, basically pull APIs and then build you something custom in Sheets. But we were just like, Supermetrics is just killing our students here for like $300 a month. They're basically,
a lot.
And we were just tired of giving them our money in our business. But we basically just, my partner just got to the point where he's like, why are we giving we're working hard to get these customers. We're paying to acquire these customers. Why are we then making them go pay another company when we can just we can be doing that for ourselves? So we basically built all the integrations into a Sheets add-on, so you can run like our entire tool suite in Sheets. But then also we're taking those, like I said, basically Sheets is going to crash at a certain limit. You can't run like enterprise style keyword research or technical audits in Sheets because the Sheets will crash. That's where BigQuery comes in. You basically process everything up there, and then it will spit it out into like Data Studio, Tableau, Looker, what have you. So yeah, so we're giving you that end report, and you're basically paying like $49 for like a keyword research report or universal report, what have you. Cancel whenever you want, just kind of like pay for run it per client. We're really targeting agencies at first. You get your entire portfolio again. So like you come in, you use the blueprint, you get used to using our systems. When you're ready to automate it, it's just $50 per run. You lose that client, cut it off. You don't have to pay anymore. That's kind of the model that we're going with. But it took us a while to arrive at that pricing model. That was a very long-winded question of how you guys arrived at your pricing. And is this something you think is going to stick for the long term? Or do you think you'll have to end up raising price? Because like pretty much everyone in the market is raising prices. I'm assuming that's because the model sputters at a certain point at that lower pricing point. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the only thing we've done recently is we used to have a $10 plan, and we did kill the $10 plan. It just wasn't manageable for what it was. But we still have a $20 plan. And so I felt like, the move from $10 to $20 really wasn't that huge of a deal. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons that we started doing the software in the first place was I wanted to be able to give the average Joe access to enterprise level data without paying an enterprise level price. Kind of your frustration in sending your people to Supermetrics to pay the $300, it was the same kind of thing in my mind. Like, well, we can do this cheaper, we can do this better, and we can provide something that can allow somebody who's just doing SEO, in their back room, trying to make it as a side hustle. I can give them the same kind of data that will give them effective SEO as much as somebody that's paying, Bright Edge $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. I can give that level of effective SEO to them at a better price. And so the tool will always be priced at a point that it is accessible. We might lose some of the lower packages, and bells and whistles that we put on the top end would be assuming that you actually have clients that then you can afford that. We're not giving you, we price it to the point that like, hey, if you're actually now making money off of this, if this helped you successfully, you're now gaining clients, then that's an affordable transition up is kind of our mindset. So that's where we would add in is on the more higher end packages, giving more things that agencies want, large site, in-house SEOs, they need very specific things. Those are expensive things. They would pay for them versus, if you're just doing SEO For your small agency, you don't need those sorts of things. You don't need that enterprise level kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where I think we would expand to raise our price point and to get those types of customers would be customers that have very specific needs beyond even a large side, even beyond a large agency. They just have their own specific, like Home Depot, their in-house team has specific needs because Home Depot is a massive site and they have very specific needs on what you can do with that, what they need to do with that. So we would provide features for that type of a site is where we'd grow. But otherwise, we're planning on keeping the price point as low as we can.
Good for you. Yeah. I think that's good, man. Cause I do think that, again, I talk to agencies on a daily basis, the blueprint, and like some of the complaints and just chatter that I hear is that like software, like people are getting to the point where software has gotten so expensive that they have to pick and choose and they're losing access, to different things.
That's exactly what we're trying to avoid, where, if you're at the $39 or you're the $79 because you want some of those extra bells and whistles, that isn't a make or break between two. You can still have your SEM Rush or your Ahrefs or your Moz or whatever you like, and also your Screaming Frog or your Site Bulb or those kind of, or Sightliner. Like, you can have those kind of things, and we fit within our price point within that suite of tools. Is kind of our mindset that you never have to sacrifice this on-page work to continue. But like you were saying, where you can turn it off, we encourage people to turn it off.
Yeah.
Often for a campaign, and the on-page happens in the first month or two, then it might be a 3, 4, 5 month campaign. Pay for a month or two, cancel your subscription. We don't delete your data.
Nice.
You can always come back to it, even with the same client. Then we encourage people to do that. Our churn rate looks very funky if you were to look at a financial analyst, because people leave, but then they come back 2 months later. In terms of churn, that looks bad. But it's like, well, we actually encourage that because we don't want them to spend money they don't have to spend.
Yeah. Do you guys have an API?
We do, but we don't. Depends on what you want to do.
Gotcha.
We do. We don't sell the API, but we do have the API available for partnerships and stuff like that.
Yeah, it would be interesting talking. I mean, basically, that's what we're doing a lot of with as well. So, like, kind of to your point about picking and choosing software, like we were going to build our own platform, similar what a Zapier is. Like, I tell people a lot of the times, like, what we're really building is like a Zapier for BigQuery. Like, like if you want to do major kind of marketing analysis, you're going to need to use some sort of, it doesn't have to be BigQuery, but we're just making it easy for people to do that. So like you can drag and drop APIs. If you want to use self-service, you can use our pre-done recipes. And a lot of these recipes that we're doing it, we're kind of taking kind of like going to your favorite sandwich shop where you go and there's a Kyle Roof sandwich on the up there. You know what I'm saying? Like a recipe that uses, so we have one with Deep Crawl, we partnered up with SEMrush to basically kind of like build them things that their customers have been asking for, but they're not going to roll into their software. Right. So we just partner with them on that. That might be something in the future that we could talk about too, just FYI.
For sure.
You guys didn't have a public API. It's just great exposure. I mean, we advertise quite a bit and we're doing it under the Deep Crawl kind of like name and guise. And it's actually, we're offering it free as well. And they're just kind of paying for all the hardware.
And you're telling people that it's Deep Crawl?
Yeah. So basically the way that we're doing it is we're not taking credit for it. It's just kind of like you just run it through our website, you sign up through our platform, but it's Deep Crawl's API. Like we actually want people to know because people love Deep Crawl's API, but it's really expensive and not everyone knows how to use it. So all the API costs, we've done a really good job of partnering with folks and just negotiating direct prices with them and just kind of doing the math on what that flat fee would cost. Same thing with like SEMrush's APIs like a lot of these APIs are just out of control for costs, especially for large usage. So that's like another.
SEMrush's pricing model is interesting. I think once you get to anything that you want, it's $199. I think it's like another $150 to add on like one other user or something like that.
Again, it gets to the point where it's like what is the real value of what the analysis that we're trying to do it for that price? Especially if you have to run it. If you have a portfolio of clients, man, like it just becomes unreasonable. Like you have to start charging your clients for API usage. So again, we're
trying about SEMrush and Deep Crawl though is the amount that they provide. The information they provide is so much. Like SEMrush's dashboard has so much information. We actually in our agency we use SEMrush. I like it.
Yeah, I love
that's a decision you have to make. On the price.
Absolutely. Deep Crawl's API is really amazing too. It's really shocking how much data that they get because if you just use their dashboard, which I love too, I think they're all good. Deep Crawl, Sitebulb. I'm literally agnostic, and I'm also agnostic when it comes to Ahrefs, SEMrush. I think whichever way, it's really just a matter of comfort. Whichever one you prefer, I think you can get the same. A lot of people don't agree with me on that, but the same basic usage out of all of them. But we're also finding too that search consoles data just continues to get a little bit better and better, and their API opens up more and more. So we're actually started to extract, like, again, and their API is pretty much free. So to get keyword data, to get impression data, kind of from the horse's mouth, we've been slowly transitioning to see how that works out with a lot of these different recipes. But anyways, majorly off track. I thought we were going to talk all about on page here, but
No, this is more fun.
more of a personal conversation. Yeah, sorry guys for watching this.
No, I'm having a great time.
I am too, man. Honestly, like I use these conversations. I think a lot of people find, I mean, look, people come to the Blueprint to get trained on SEO, but I think a lot of training, once they get in, and same thing with your course, like they also want to know what we're doing, what we're thinking about, what we're doing to take next steps. Because, you know, I got in this game through a Facebook group. I learned about SEO. I overheard somebody at a coffee shop talking about it. Not 10 years ago, that's how I got into it. Now we've not only built multiple, you know, successful businesses and employing people, but I'm living a lifestyle that I truly love. I mean, we were talking before that you're about to move to Thailand, you know, which is amazing. And like really, that's what I was asking about. You're married with a child, and I think it's amazing to be able to have your child experience something so different, you know, expand their worldviews. And
well, that's exactly it. I looked at it like, so he's going to kindergarten, and it's like, well, I could put him into the kindergarten here, or I can go to Thailand and send him into a school that's completely bilingual. Half of the time it's in English, half the time it's a Thai. What an immersion opportunity at the age of 5 to just really experience it. The thing's funny though, like, again, I like my life. So as we all know with what's going on right now, borders are closed and we're not sure we can get there. We're going to apply this coming week or next week, and we'll see, fingers crossed, 50-50, I'd say. But our backup plan is Barbados. So the worst part of my life right now is I'll be in Barbados, which isn't exactly where I want to be, but it's probably going to be all right.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Honestly, what a time to be alive. And I just feel super grateful and fortunate that I really stumbled into this industry kind of by accident. And 10 years later, it's such a vibrant industry, plenty of room to make money for everyone, but also just the community. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the fact that we can both jump on here and talk about nonsense to what, you know, anyone outside of this community, it sounds like, but we're so interested in it. And it's amazing. People ask me all the time, you know, they hear that SEO is kind of dying. It's not the greatest thing. And I'm like, if you want to start an agency, SEO to me is still the best place to be in. People pay you up front. They'll pay you for 6 months. They're not going to be hounding you about ROAS. You don't have to worry about creative and all this different stuff. Like, you can literally just follow process over and over again. Your margins are great. You build great relationships with clients. You do good work. It's still an amazing industry to be a part of. It's just, I think beginners are shied away from it because it's just a lot harder. It's become a lot more work, and it's gotten a lot more professional. You know what I mean? Whereas 10 years,
I think that's fair. I think it's really fair. Like, you have more professional agencies that are coming up that, we have people that actually weren't in SEO and actually been brought into agencies, you know, like, so they bring that level of, okay, this is a legitimate thing now. Yeah.
I mean, look, when I first started getting into this 8 to 10 years ago, it was, you know, I was learning, and I don't think there's anything wrong with PBNs. I really don't. I don't think there's anything wrong with black, gray hat. I don't have a problem with it at all. I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to get paid more if I just do it the longhand way. So I'm going to do it the longhand way. But you know, when I first got started, I will never forget, like, it was literally so easy that you would just hire someone off Fiverr to write an article, keyword stuff the crap out of it, go buy 10 links online. They were terrible links, like $5 each, and they would be ranking for like HVAC Miami, you know, like really valuable terms.
Right.
But of course that all got wiped away. And I think when that initial phase got wiped away and people were like, damn, we have to create content, we have to do link building this way, like, it just became so much work that, you know, it's just human nature to look for the shortest route to what we want to get to. And, you know, move to like a drop shipping, Shopify, advertising, you know, that whole space, which are all great, but that was what I meant. It's just become a much more professional industry in the sense that, like, like every company really needs an SEO. Like, they really do. Like, I don't see how you can really scale a business without really tapping into organic traffic. You can build so much on paid advertising, which we do, but until you incorporate that, and it's not just the organic traffic, it's also the content strategy, it's the UX, it's all the stuff that also comes with really good SEO.
You know, you think about it too, like a company that wants to bring somebody in to do SEO. If they paid somebody $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year. Plus, they'd have to pay all the benefits and all the taxes and all those other things. They have to have a spot for them, or they can bring in an agency, pay you the $5,000 a month, get all the work done, and not have to pay all those extras, or they can pay a little bit less. and then they're really saving. So
and they're getting experts top to bottom.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're getting a team as well. They're not just getting one person who then needs to then get that information. They're getting a whole team of people, a whole team of experts. So
agreed. And I mean, the good thing about an agency too, if you're a company, is that if something like COVID happens, you can fire them very easily. You know, that's
right. It's a lot easier to fire the agency than it is.
It is. And that's one of the reasons why you pay a slight premium, I think, is the ability to, you know, get out and move on if something happens. But I have another call I got to jump to, Kyle. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to cover?
No, I'll just do a shamelessly plug Pop again, Page Optimizer Pro. If you tried it before and it was overwhelming, literally on Tuesday we launched a new dashboard. I think it makes everything easy. I think it makes really advanced SEO simple. That's kind of the tagline we're going with. So give us a shot if you gave a shot before and you weren't sure what to do.
And that's pageoptimizer.pro?
That's right.
Okay, cool. And your agency, how can we find you there?
High Voltage SEO. So hvseo.co.co.
Cool. And what about Twitter, social media? How can people find you?
I'm KyleBot1997 on just about everything. Gotcha. But a good place to reach me is internetmarketing.gold. That's the group that we have. We have a free area that you can tap into. You can ping me there. That's probably the easiest way. So internetmarketing.gold.
Awesome. All right, brother. I really appreciate you coming out middle of the week.
Thanks for having me.
Ready to move to Thailand. Hopefully that goes well for you. And let's stay in touch, man.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Take care, brother.